So over the last few weeks, we've shown you some of the basics of how to use Jamboard and how to use it with your class. I want to show you just a few advanced tricks with Jamboard today that will help you take your Jamboard use even further. So first of all, one of the questions is that we get asked a lot is, when should I use Jamboard as opposed to using something like Annotate? And I think both tools work for a variety of different purposes. So one thing I would suggest is anytime you're using Jamboard, anytime you're collaborating, Jamboard is probably a good choice. For example, that ability to bring in the sticky notes is a huge one there. And remember, when you're going to do that, when you're going to allow students access to your Jamboard, remember you do that through sharing. You're going to click on share. You're going to make sure that you change it down here to share with Gaston County Schools, and then you can copy that link and put it in your LMS, whether that's Canvas or Schoology, so that you can send your students directly to it. Just remember with that when you share it with your students in editor mode, yes, they can put sticky notes, but they can also do other things and move things around. So keep that in mind. If you share it with them with view, then they can see it, but they can't change it. Another time I will probably choose Jamboard over Annotate is if I just needed a white blank board to write on, to just write some random things down, because to me, it's quicker to pull up a Jamboard on your device that's hooked to your LED and to pull one up on your Chromebook flipped around as a tablet. I think it's quicker to do that than it is to set up Annotate. And also, if you're doing just one activity, if you have one of those helpful templates like we showed you the other week, as opposed to, say, an entire slideshow, Jamboard's probably going to be best bet. If you're showing your students an entire slideshow, I'd go with Annotate. Finally, I'm going to show you one neat trick. If you are in a Google Meet, and I'll bring this Google Meet up. So if you're in a Google Meet, most people don't realize you can go down here to the little activities button. Click that, and you notice one of the activities that you have access to is whiteboarding. And if you click that, you can either start a new Jamboard or even pull up your Google Drive and open one up. So let's see if I can go to my Drive. Here we go. We're on Recents, and look, here's my advanced tips and tricks. I could pull this up, and that is going to be shared with the people that I'm on the Meet with once I click Send to a Meeting. So pretty cool option there. All right, so let's get to a couple other things. One of the things that happens is background. So if you don't want that plain white background, you can add a different background. Now, there are a couple different reasons we might want to do that. So to do this, you're going to go up here, and there's a button that says Set Background. When I click that, you'll notice I get a couple very useful ones. Here's some blue lines for writing. We also have a graph paper grid, a grayed graph paper grid, dark blue, a black background, and finally we've got dots, which are fun. You can also use your own custom background. So basically any graphic that you have that you want to make the background. In other words, something that can't be moved or touched. So you can see that I'm on the select here and I cannot move around this. This is going to be there for good. You can go to set background and then click the image button. Now I happen to have one here that I've grayed out a little bit so that it's not that you can still write on it and see things. So I'll just go into there. You notice I'm accessing my Google Drive. I could also directly upload it or do a Google image search or all kinds of things, but I'm going to use Google Drive. Click my old well and set as frame background. And so now I have that picture here as the background for my slide, and I can add my sticky notes, or I can add anything else, a box, text, anything over the top of that. Next thing I want to show you is the clear cover trick. Now this is super cool. So let's say I'm studying Macbeth and I have this artwork and I want the students to answer this question by typing a sticky note and putting it over here. So at the end of this, I'll have a bunch of different sticky notes over here. The problem is, inevitably, one of the students is going to click the picture and move it, or click text to move it, or accidentally hide the sticky note. So those things are all going to move around. But there's a trick. What we're going to do is we're going to go down here to our shape, okay, and we're going to make a rectangle or a square, either one. I'm going to do a rectangle. Now I'm going to draw this rectangle. Now by default, and I'm going to make it big, I'm going to cover the entire screen. Now by default, when I bring this in, it may be a color, and it may have a solid line on the outside, red, black, whatever. But I can click the paint bucket here, and I can make it transparent. And I can click the border color button and make it white. So now what I have is a box that covers up the entire page. And I can even make it bigger. I can slide it over a little bit and grab this corner and drag it down. And now it's so big that when the students get in here, they're not even going to see this. But watch what happens when I try to click on the sticky note. Nothing. Because what's happened here is that clear cover I've put over the top of this is the thing that gets selected. Okay? And your students might move it around a little bit, but they're unlikely to get rid of it entirely. So that kind of helps to protect the things you've got on here. And the great thing is, because the way we talked about Jamboard using layers, the last thing you put on there is always the top layer. But the neat thing is, if a student comes in and puts a sticky note, that will go on top of that clear layer. So they can still move that sticky note and any other sticky notes that come after it around, but they can't move this stuff easily. So that just kind of helps protect the things you have on your slide. Okay, so that's the clear cover. So let's look at a couple other tricks. Let's talk about using Jamboard with groups. So I've got a different jam here. This is an agree-disagree chart. And let's say I want my students to do this in groups, and I've got 4 groups or 5 groups or 6 groups. What I can do is I can get my slide ready the way I want it, and that would include even, if you wanted to put a few blank sticky notes on here for them to use. But I get the slide completely ready, and then I go up here to the frame bar, expand it, and now I'm just going to click on the 3 dots, and I'm going to duplicate this as many times as I have groups. So if I have 4 groups, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. And now what I'll do with my students, once I go up here and share this with them so that they can see it and edit it, I'm going to say, okay, you guys are group 1, you guys are group 2, you guys are group 3, you're group 4. Go up here to the frame bar and find your group. And that way the students can each have one to work on. Now, if you want to get even more specific and name your groups, we can do that too. So what I've done is I've gone and prepared a little box, a little graphic with the names of each couple students that I want in each one of these groups. And I've saved that as a image file in my Google Drive. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and I'm going to do the add image. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Google Drive, and I'll put it on recent since I've looked at those lately. Okay, so now I can grab one of these and bring it in, drag it up in the corner, and make it small. At this point, I can go up and I can add a new frame and then repeat that process. So I'm going to go in and I'll pull up my second group of people. So now when I share this with my students, they will each just take a look at all the slides, find their names, and they know to be on that slide. And of course, if I wanted to give them, like we did before, a chart or a graphic or a sticky note or something to start with, I could go ahead and put that on the first slide and then duplicate it multiple times and then put the names on it. Now, what's smart about this is once I've got one of these done, I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel, every time I do this. So I've got, 4 good frames with my group names. And if I use these groups over and over, what I'm probably going to want to do is go up here and rename this. And I want to rename this group template. Okay, so now every time I get ready to do a group activity where they have to write on Jamboard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in my drive, I will start out with that group template, and then I'll just make a copy of it. I'll just right click on it, I'll say make a copy, and then whatever the copy is, that will be the one I use today. And so that way it's already got 4 slides, it's already got their names in it, it's ready to go. So that's just a few things that are little advanced tips with Jamboard to help make your Jamboards work well for you and your students when you collaborate. Thanks.